Hello and welcome back to LTC Heroes Live. My name is Peter Murphy-Lewis. I'm your host. Today I'm at the Ohio Healthcare Association at the Convention and Expo. Today I'm joined by Joe Kowalski, the CEO and founder of Empowered Community Services. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Joe, you and I were chatting a little bit before we got live and got recorded. You have an interesting story, and especially about how you came about founding your agency. Can you tell me about, let's go back to the very first time you got into long-term care. Do you remember your first day or your first week or the first person who introduced you? I always like to say, did they throw you in the deep end?
Yeah. So, I found myself like a second-year psychology student at University of Cincinnati. Wanted to help people. Yeah, it sounds kind of cliche, but
only for young people.
Yeah.
If you were 60, we'd be like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but it was very kind of generic. I just want to help people, want to do good. But as a second-year college student, all I'd ever done was worked in a warehouse. And so I said, well, I better get some experience doing something with people if I'm going to use this degree. So I applied to a newspaper ad. Kind of gives you some idea of the date or the time.
To the young people out there, do you know what a newspaper is?
That's right. You actually got this thing. You had to look in the back couple of pages. You wrote a letter, maybe made a phone call. And so I interviewed for the job coaching position with Montgomery County Board. At that time, it was called, it was MRDD at the time also. Had no idea outside of the little snippet in the classified ad what I was getting into. I don't know why still to this day, but they went ahead and hired me. And so I started out as a job coach working in employment services with adults with disabilities. My first day, they sort of parade you around the office. This is the new job coach, fresh face. And all throughout the day, they were saying, you're going to go work with, and I'll call him Sam. He's going to go work with Sam. He's going to go work with Sam. So sort of doing all the introductions. At the end of the day, the last couple of hours is going to go work with this gentleman who was working on a cleaning enclave. And every time somebody would say, Joe's going to go work with Sam, I would get this look. I don't have a personal connection in my family with people with disabilities. I don't have this strong origin story of being in school. So I don't have a lot of reference other than everybody keeps giving me this look. So anyway, 2:00 rolls around. I finally make it to where the work enclave is with Sam. And he works on a group of 5 or 6 folks, and they're cleaning a school. And I was terrified by this point, right? Almost not even knowing what to expect. This guy has a reputation. Is this going to be difficult? Blah, blah, blah. And it was wonderful. Sam was just this kind of ornery guy that really didn't like to clean. I think some people sort of had a negative perception about him and his attitude, or they may, in the field, you may hear people say folks have behaviors or that sort of thing. Sam just didn't really like vacuuming. So anyway, once you kind of got to that understanding of him and what he was all about, which was kind of fun and games and acting like the vacuum was unplugged every 5 minutes, I had a great time. So all of this buildup and anxiety and worry about what is it like to work with people with disabilities was washed away very quickly. And, you could say I found my calling, so to speak. And so that was literally my first day on the job.
And how did it transition into Empowered and what you're doing today?
So there was a lot of years in between there. I worked direct care with the county as a job coach. I worked in-home direct care, residential provider. So I'd get up at 5 a.m. or whatever, go across town, get some gentlemen ready, get their breakfast, get them ready for the workshop, the day program. Then I'd go work and be a job coach for the county board, do classes at night, finally make it home. I did that for a lot of years and just progressively worked my way through maybe some management roles, some supervisory roles, just tried to gobble up as much as I could information about the field, what it meant to deliver good quality service. Just tried to learn as much as I could all along the way and fell into some really great opportunities. I worked in an ICFMR, ICF IDD now. That's a 24/7 residential facility similar to a skilled nursing. I did that for a while. I worked for the state of Ohio, the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and I worked for a really large publicly traded company that does our services, home and community-based services. And after maybe, I don't want to say seeing it all and doing it all, but having been around a while, I thought, what I really want to do is run my own agency. And so the opportunity came along to do that. And I sort of had a conversation with my wife and my kids. And I said, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. And so that was in October of 2018.
You started right before COVID.
I could tell you some stories about COVID anxiety. Thankfully in our agency, we were really very fortunate. We didn't have any major health scares or lose anybody on the staff side or anybody that we served. It was definitely touch and go there from time to time. But yeah, we were essentially open for about 18 months, going full steam ahead, providing meaningful day services and transportation to people in the Dayton area originally. We had a brand new center, brand new construction set to open the week that our governor basically shut things down. So we had just purchased a number of brand new vehicles, got this brand new building, open house balloons are ready to go. And, everything really took a break. So that was challenging.
How did you survive? And also tell me a little bit about why is it you were able to survive? What are the differentiators that allowed you to continue to grow?
Yeah, so there were a number of rules, regulations, sort of compliance things around COVID in the state of Ohio in particular. But there was a little bit of daylight in particular with what we did, where there was an opportunity to continue to serve people. So we had 2 centers open. We were probably serving 60 or so folks a day right before COVID. And we unfortunately laid off all of our staff except for one gentleman I kept on. And we got with our families and we said, we've done all of our research and we're going to follow all of the restrictions and rules and guidance, but we know that there are some of you families that need us. You're going to go to work and your loved ones are still going to need care. So, who needs those services? What can we do? And so basically we took 2 days off in COVID. We came back and we started serving 3 gentlemen whose parents said, we desperately still need you. We think you can do it safely and carefully. There's a total of 4 people in the building, so we just went from there. It was a very small seed, a kernel. And as more guidance came out, we adapted, to the point where we were able to bring back all of our staff and then continue to grow. So we've opened 3 centers since that fateful day in, spring of 20, I guess.
I got a question for you about what you learned about yourself. You obviously resilient, and what you went through stress-wise as an entrepreneur and founder of a company. What did you learn about yourself? And it can be, if you want to be vulnerable and say like I learned this, I'm not great at this. Or it could be like, wow, I'm amazing at this. And I handled the stress amazingly. And I ate fruit and drank water and was able to work 22 hours a day and also raise my kids.
Yeah. I don't think I did anything, really well. I think the lesson though, out of that was, we built a business plan and a vision for the company well before COVID. It was something that we felt like resonated with families, resonated with our population, and we believed in it. And I think that there came a couple of gut checks during COVID where we say, we believed in this pre-COVID. We can't abandon it because of COVID, because of the pandemic, because of these other external issues. We have to stay true to the plan and the vision and just kind of keeping that dogged persistence. I think that won the day. And owning the mistakes when you make them, all along the way is say that, you can't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Where is Empowered going in 2023? Like what's on the horizon?
So we have several more locations that are going to open. We currently have 5 centers open in Southwest Ohio. We're going to open a 6th within the next month or so on the west side of Cincinnati. We have other locations that are identified. So we're going to stay on that mission of meaningful day services and transportation. We're also really trying hard to grow our shared living program, which is really specific to families, partnering with families to help keep their loved ones at home in a family setting. We found that to be really beneficial to families. Families have really soared with that model. We can take some of the administrative complexity off of them and keep their loved ones at home. So we're really looking to grow that as well.
What is a happy family that works with you? What does their family situation look like? What does their resident look like? What do they need from you? Tell me what that person comes to you and it's ideal.
It's a little bit different for everybody. What we often say is we try to meet families where they're at. So we have some families where their loved ones still live at home and they say to us, I want a really safe, clean, accessible environment with well-trained staff where my loved one can work with a peer group and build skills, and that can happen in a center, and that's fine. And so it's a little bit more of your traditional center based. We can do that. We have other families that say, if my loved one is not in the building at all during the day, that's what I want. I want them to be in the community, go, go, go. So we provide that as well. We have multiple outings every day. Our staff are out in the community, social rec opportunities, volunteer opportunities. So we really try and meet people where they're at with that. We support people who live independently on their own with just drop-in staff. We have folks that live in supervised residential settings, and we have some folks that still live with mom and dad.
In terms of the convention, you've been coming here for almost a decade.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you try to learn. What are the conversations you're having with your peers? What are the struggles that you come here and you find someone who's either younger than you or older than you or in a different area of long-term care? And what are you talking about?
Yeah. So, because it's been a while, since I started coming, some of the folks that I used to work with or worked alongside, we've kind of gone on and done our own thing. And so it's nice when you get to the convention, you know that you're going to see certain faces and you can catch up with those folks. And actually just came over from about a 10-minute pep talk with an old mentor of mine that was just fantastic. So I cherish those opportunities. OHCA does an amazing job all year round, keeping everybody informed, members, board members, all of that. And so, you don't ever come looking for like an 11th hour surprise, because I feel like we do such a great job of staying abreast of what's going on. But, it's the social time. It's troubleshooting with people you don't see every day. That's really the benefit for me.
How many staff do you have on your team right now?
We're pushing the 50 mark, probably. Or so, maybe a little bit beyond that. Yeah.
What does an ideal teammate look like for Empowered? What are the attributes, characteristics that you're looking for when you're trying to hire or grow your team?
So our direct support professionals, I'm really proud that they come from a variety of backgrounds. We have some folks that have been doing the work for 20 or 30 years. And we have other folks that are younger that just have great energy. They're very empathetic. For us, the difference at Empowered is, yes, we have brand new state-of-the-art buildings that are custom built. Yes, we drive brand new vehicles. Yes, we use a lot of different technology platforms to stay, right on the edge. But at the end of the day, it's relationships. It's how is the direct support professional that's in the building every day going to connect with the person that we serve, and how are they going to connect with the families that we support? Because those are really our two customers. The person with the disability, but also the family is just as big a customer. We want to take pressure off of them, take stress off of them, give them peace of mind, communicate with them about how things are going. So for a DSP who's got great energy, great compassion and empathy, and we want them to be interesting people. When somebody comes to an interview and they say, well, I do this bird watching thing on the weekends. Some people think it's a little bit strange. I go, you're the kind of person we need. You've got like these strand sort of thread interests that we can weave into programming. We can weave into community events. And if you're interesting out of work, you're going to be interesting in work. So that's what we look for.
There's the person you just described probably has a name inside of your team. And I'm going to ask you to give a shout out for a person, but the reason I think the shout outs are important is because, we just survived a very, very severe pandemic, very surprising. We were unprepared. And a lot of times in long-term care, we don't celebrate enough.
Yeah.
Who on your team, when you were talking about that interesting person that's good at connections, who's a person that comes to mind as the epitome of that?
I would want to list all of my staff,
we don't have time for 50,
so
can you give me one?
Juanita Buckner, to me, she started off with our agents. She had worked for our county board. I try not to go long. She worked for our county board of developmental disabilities for a lot of years. And when they transitioned out of services, she was basically, she had to look for another job. And we were so happy to get her. She started as a direct support professional for us. Walked in an afternoon where we had to say goodbye to somebody. It was like one door closed and another door opened. It was very serendipitous. She's fantastic. We've promoted her to assistant branch at our Inglewood location, and she has been with us almost from the start. She's incredible.
I'd love to meet Whitney.
Yeah.
Sounds like an amazing person.
Yeah.
My last question as we start to wrap up, Joe, is if a 15-year-old Whitney comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about working in long-term care, but the pay is not what I wanted, and maybe the schedule is not what I expected. What would you tell them about the intangibles that they're going to learn from this industry, way different, way beyond the wage, or between working on holidays and sometimes at night?
Yeah. Um, my advice would be that if somebody's interested in working with people, it gives back in ways that other things just can't give back. When you're in next to somebody, helping them in their most intimate moments, especially, I think, and this definitely goes for seniors. I don't work with seniors, but for people with developmental disabilities, through no fault of their own, we're really dealt a short stack in hand. To be able to help them, to help them do even the simplest tasks, it will give you so much joy and so much of just an intrinsic reward. You might find that offsets the other things you think you're losing in the way of wages or recognition or other things. I think everybody should really humble themselves, to some extent, and try that out and see how much it can give back to them.
Joe, thanks so much for joining us on LTC Heroes Live. It's a pleasure meeting you here at
Yeah.
Ohio, and hopefully run into you again next year and meet some of your staff and interview them for the amazing work they're doing.
That'd be awesome. Thanks so much for
Talk
having
to
me.
you soon.
Bye-bye.
This episode of LTC Heroes is brought to you by Experience Care, the only long-term care software developed by EHR users and clinicians every step of the way. Visit experience.care/guarantee to get your free profitability consultation today.